999ers risk their lives every day keeping us safe.
You're putting yourself out there to help other people at their most precious time of need.
But all too often, they're abused and attacked.
Their house is on fire and they're attacking us.
I was standing up with her hands around my throat.
No. These personal attacks on police, paramedics and firefighters are at an all-time high.
He's telling me I'm going to kill your wife and I'm going to kill your family and I'm going to kill you.
Leaving them traumatised and unable to work.
How do you come to terms with knowing that you can't go and do the job that you love?
But while the violent criminals responsible are hunted down and brought to justice, our protectors fight to get well and back on the job.
We kept people safe, we put away the bad guys.
I'm not going to let some man ruin it for me. This is my future, this is what I enjoy doing.
Ready to face the next critical incident. Coming up, a police officer's career ends prematurely when he is the victim of not one, but two life-changing assaults.
The next memory I have is looking up and seeing awful people kicking me on the floor. I always lived with the fear of I could go to work and this could happen again.
And Kent Police tackle the growing drug problem in their county.
This is what we're dealing with every day. This is what's causing the misery.
With a specialist team out to track down a dealer at the top of the chain.
These sort of criminals have no reservation about injuring my officers. So I've got to do everything to protect my officers, and indeed protect the public, and take that county line drug dealer out completely.
These are the medications I have to take every day. They're a mixture of antidepressants, anti-anxiety drugs, and drugs for high blood pressure. So just these. In total, I'm on 9 medications. I have to take that to maintain a normal function during the day. And that will be the same for the rest of my life.
Simon Mudge's dad was a police officer in the Met before transferring to Avon and Somerset. At the tender age of 17, Simon followed in his father's footsteps and joined the force, serving his community for 27 years.
This is what I call my police call. Something with my service, my memorabilia, if you like. I've got my epaulets, which bore both my father's and my collar number. I joined the job wanting to catch all the baddies, stop all the violence, save all the children. I was the first one to get to a job, the last one to leave the neck. I enjoyed just wearing the uniform, to be honest with you. I loved it so much.
But one incident in 1997, early on in his career, changed Simon forever.
On this particular night, there was a report of 4 burglars that had broken into a shop. I run out the police station, run towards where they're supposed to be, and I see these 4 people. They're 4 well-known people who are well-known to me. One particularly violent towards police officers. So I thought, yeah, maybe me. I've got 2 years in, I'm invincible, I'm a police officer, I can do this. I went up to them and they were carrying property, so I arrested all 4 of them.
But the offenders quickly took advantage of the fact Simon was single-crewed.
I got punched in the face. I drew my baton and I struck the person who punched me on the kneecap, and I got punched from behind, so I was on the floor. And the next memory I have is looking up and seeing awful people kicking me on the floor, kicking into my rib cage. I came to just as help arrived. By only good fortune, my sergeant at the time came down the road and saw what was happening and called up for more units to attend. And they fled. I being quite angry, got up and chased after the person that punched me in the face. I managed to arrest him and get him cuffed. And then I walked back to where I was assaulted and just passed out on the floor. I was taken to hospital and had a broken rib and a broken jaw.
All 4 offenders were caught and arrested, but the outcome was not what Simon had hoped for.
I was told they were going to serve custodial sentences for what they did, but they didn't. I got to Bristol Crown Court and they got 200 hours community service and 2 years probation to a man, and they all walked out laughing. That incident was pivotal to my career. I always lived with the fear of I could go to work and this could happen again. But those who know me would never have guessed, because I was always, hey, it's Mudge, go out, let's go out and nick someone, let's go out and do this, go out and do that. So people never knew, and I never discussed it. I was back out working, but I wasn't really there.
As Simon's career progressed, he attended more and more traumatising scenes, and his mental health deteriorated.
I was diagnosed in 1997 with post-traumatic stress disorder by a psychiatrist. I was very stroppy, very moody, not really pleasant to be around. I drank excessively to numb the pain. I did that for years until it became outrageous and I just had to stop. I'm not proud of it, but that was a coping strategy. That's how I got through most days. But the demons come at night. When they come when you least expect them. I mean, I have nightmares pretty much every night of the scenes of carnage that I've had to deal with.
This was a world away from the enthusiastic young man who joined the police only 2 years previously.
I was a confident, larger than life, always taking a mickey. I'd always be there first, I'd always be there to back someone up.
But now, Simon was living a very different reality.
That incident was always at the back of my mind. This could happen again. This could happen again. This could happen again. And it did happen again.
Later, as Simon struggles to cope, another horrific incident pushes him to the limit.
I thought, that's it. This is where it ends. The only thing that I could think of was my unborn child. I thought, I'm never going to get to see her. So I just said goodbye.
After 35 years of fighting crime, it's safe to say that Kent Police Chief Constable Alan Pewsley has pretty much seen it all.
I never, ever liked serious crime or serious criminals. I think they're bullies. I think they intimidate people in society. And therefore, most of my career has been at that high-end criminality, whether that be murder, robbery, sexual offences, or indeed kidnap or contract killings. I've had a very varied career, but most of it is serious crime, and I guess complemented with a very important local policing.
One of the major problems Kent Police has to tackle is county lines. This is the term used when drugs are trafficked into rural areas, commonly using children and vulnerable adults as runners. The county line is the mobile phone number used to take drug orders.
The last figures tell us something like About a third of the county lines in London, identified by the National Crime Agency, come into Kent. It changes on a daily basis, but that's about 106 county lines, which is pretty significant. And we also have some county lines come in internationally as well, mainly Eastern Europe. And these people, they carry knives, they're very violent, and they would think nothing at all of assaulting an officer to get away or indeed carry out their criminal act. I ask my officers to deal with them. I ask my officers to stop them, to search them, to confront them and keep the public safe.
Once a month, Chief Constable Pewsley takes to the streets with a different team in his constabulary, so he can see for himself what's happening on the front line and the daily dangers his officers face.
It's incredibly important that all chief officers, so me now as the head, we don't forget why we joined the police. I didn't join to be a chief officer, I joined to be a police officer. I did 18, 19 years on the front line. I know what it was like to be out in the street. You can't pretend to understand that if you've not done it. And over the last 7 or 8 years in policing, that's been in the most difficult, challenging times ever, in my view, in 35 years of policing. And the delivery they've done here in Kent over that time, it's put us as one of the best forces in the land. They're doing incredible work, absolutely brilliant work.
Today, the Chief Constable is joining his dedicated County Lines and Gangs team. It's early morning and they've already picked up a local drug dealer on the streets of Gravesend.
So they go away in the whole cell now for a bit.
Obviously, we've seen this guy on the street do a suspected drugs deal. We've brought him back for a strip search. Whilst we're doing the strip search, a Kinder egg has fell out of his pocket. But you can see in there, we've got a quantity of heroin and crack cocaine. There's probably about 40, 50 deals there. You see we've got quite a quantity there. Obviously the white is going to be the crack cocaine, and you've got the brown or black, which is going to be the heroin. This is what we're dealing with every day, is stuff like this. This is what's causing the misery. You're looking at about £400 worth of Class A drugs off the streets of Kent. So yeah, I think it's a good result.
Really, really good stop. But this is a county line. You know, the work they're going to do now is trying to get up to who's supplying him. What's the next step up? Now we look to go upstream. So yeah, great stuff. Really good. Cool. Nice job.
The offender pleaded guilty to possessing heroin and crack cocaine with intent to supply. He was sentenced to 3 years and 2 months in prison. Coming up, the Chief Constable and his team hunt down a suspected county lines ringleader.
We go to the head of the county line, take the head off the snake, so to speak. That's what we're after today.
And Simon Mudge's mental health deteriorates.
I was in fight or flight all the time. There was never any rest.
But his family keep him strong.
As soon as my children came along, that put a new perspective on it. They saved me. It really did.
Emergency service workers are vulnerable to threats and abuse, even when they're not frontline workers. Shockingly, abusive calls to 999 call centres are on the rise, with call handlers reporting verbal abuse and threats as a regular feature of the job.
The ambulance is being arranged while we're speaking. Okay. It's being arranged while we're speaking. Give me the phone number. Give me the phone number. What phone number are you calling from?
The one I'm on. The one I'm on.
What is the phone number you're calling from?
No!
The ambulance is being arranged while we're speaking. Are you with her now?
Switchboard, I'm going to shoot you.
All I'm worried about is the patient.
The call handler remains calm, while the man who is calling about a friend shouts and swears 30 times during the 3-minute call. While in this shocking call to the South West Ambulance Service, a man threatens to kill a call handler for asking questions before sending out paramedics.
I haven't got time to answer your silly questions. No, I'm going to on your floor if you do not send an ambulance here. I'm telling you now, love, if you don't get someone out here to rescue... kid, I'm going to walk up the gun and set it on fire. Oh, I swear to God, mate, I'm going to stab you up.
I've tried to explain to you, we need to ask these questions.
Mate, send an ambulance now before I start taking things.
Does she have any high-risk complications, sir?
End of story.
You need to listen to me.
End of story.
Once again, the call handler remains calm throughout. This caller was taken to court and fined for the abuse. And it's not just abusive calls that are a problem. Unusual requests waste thousands of hours of call centre time and money.
Hello, you're through to the police.
I want to know the time.
Right, but you rang on 999, the emergency line, for the police?
I want to know the time.
Okay, the time's 4:45. I'm going to clear the line, okay?
Okay.
I only ordered one 7-line chip. They sent me 3 7-line chips.
The biscuit was out of date.
And in 2019, nearly a quarter of calls to the Welsh Ambulance Service were deemed not serious.
Ambulance service? Yeah, I'm having a very bad toothache right now, and I don't have any painkillers with me.
Ambulance service?
I shaved my bikini area on Saturday, but I find it very uncomfortable.
Ambulance, is it after the emergency?
Ho, 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 Merry Christmas.
Hello? They've just disconnected.
Calls like these can waste valuable time and prevent real emergencies being dealt with. In 1997, former police officer Simon Mudge was subjected to a horrific attack whilst apprehending 4 burglars on his own. The attack was so severe that it led to him being diagnosed with PTSD. But one person has helped Simon through some of his darkest days. His wife, Rowena.
Lily, come and have your hair done.
The couple met when Rowena joined the police in 2006.
You know where it is?
Good girl.
They've been married for 13 years and have 3 daughters together.
Chaotic.
Simon has always been a really warm and loving, particularly loyal person. And when I say loyal, I don't just mean to us as his family, I mean to the job that he joined as well. Whatever he sets his mind to, he's always been quite a loyal person. But yeah, just really friendly, warm, loving, a really good dad.
Look, darling.
When we first met, I had absolutely no idea that Simon had previously suffered with PTSD and just all the symptoms that come with that. He hid it really, really well. And in fact, like a lot of people with PTSD, he hid it for several years afterwards. I first became aware because I couldn't wake him up one morning and I couldn't understand why I couldn't wake him up. And I was naturally quite worried. And when I did wake him up, he told me that he'd been taking sleeping tablets because he couldn't sleep and he'd been having bad dreams. And that's how I first knew that he suffered with what I now know is PTSD, but I didn't know a lot about it at the time. I think PTSD's sort of been one of those conditions that was suffered in the background, behind closed doors, stiff upper lip, people just got on with it. So it was several years into our relationship when I really discovered that he suffered with it.
In 2003, Simon was subjected to yet another violent attack. This incident would change the course of his life forever.
Looking at it now, it's a nice place. People out enjoying themselves, walking with their dogs and what have you. You know, completely oblivious as to what happened here 17 years ago. But it's still very real for me. It was July 2003. My ex-wife was pregnant with my first child, Ella. It was a hot, sweaty, horrible day.
There was a music festival here, in the grounds of Ashton Court, a country estate in Bristol. Simon was in a unit of 5 PCs and a sergeant who were in a van patrolling the crowds.
There was obviously drinking, drug taking. What you had then was the tide was very definitely turning. The mood changed. It became very aggressive towards the police.
After a long and difficult day, Simon's shift was nearly over. But a last-minute incident would have devastating consequences.
We were sat in the van waiting to go. I think we were just relieved to finish. When a member of the public came running up to our van, banged on the side of the door, and we opened the door, and my dad's getting assaulted back in the crowd in the front of the dance tent. We get to this guy, he's surrounded by the biggest crowd I've ever seen. We were right in the middle of the crowd. There was dance music blaring out from the dance stage, so you can imagine you can't hear yourself think, let alone listen to this radio. We were talking to this man's father to establish what happened, and he basically said that everybody had taken a bit of a punt at him and hit him and what have you. So identifying the suspect was nigh on impossible. And the son then turned at me and became extremely aggressive, swearing and being abusive and shouting at me, and I was like trying to calm him down. After a couple of minutes of his abuse, I decided I wasn't going to take any more of it and just grabbed hold of him with the intention of moving him out of the crowd, taking him to the police compound and taking him away from there. However, as soon as I laid hands on him, I felt a blow across the back of my head and I was knocked unconscious. When I regained consciousness, he was underneath me and he was fighting and kicking and gouging, and the crowd surrounded us, and I couldn't see anything but feet and hands and arms and kicks and punches. The crowd got a bit closer, they started chucking cans, bottles at us. The old kick, the old punch would come out. At that point, I was urinated on by someone. There are no words I can use to describe that. Humiliating, yes, it was. It was disgusting, and it was quite possibly the worst thing that I've ever had done to me. And then from somewhere in the crowd, we were sprayed with CS spray. I couldn't hear anything, couldn't see anything. All I wanted to do was just hang on to my prisoner. The density of people, literally falling over each other to get us. They were tightly packed. There was no way through it. There was no way over the top of it. There was just no way that was going to happen. So I had to stay where I was. I felt completely alone, at the mercy of a baying crowd that would quite happily see my blood. And at that point, I thought I was going to die. I said inside my head, goodbye, Ella, because I never thought I was going to see my unborn child. And that lived with me for a very long time. I'd had several times in the job where I've been assaulted quite badly, and I've always thought I'll come out the other end of it. But on that day, I thought that was it. I thought my 9 lives had run out. Eventually, and it seemed like a dog's age away, I heard the sound of two-tone sirens, which means there was someone coming to help us. And the crowd cleared, and I was grabbed hold of by the back, and it was my skipper who put me on board the van, and we were driven off to the police post, which is literally sort of seconds away. I can see it like it was yesterday, but I've got to be grateful for the fact that on leaving the police, I received quite a substantial amount of trauma counselling, which helped me deal with things like this.
Although Simon was struggling with PTSD, his career was flourishing, and he received numerous commendations for his work. But after attending countless more harrowing scenes, his nightmares and flashbacks became worse and more frequent.
Just before Poppy was born, so in 2011, that's when he really started suffering really badly with the symptoms of PTSD, and sort of since then it's really been quite a roller coaster of sort of symptoms and conditions, really.
It just made me cautious. At times it made me aggressive because I didn't want to go through the things I'd been through again. I'd sweat, I'd shake, any loud noise would trigger me. My cortisol, my sort of fear chemical was so much in my brain that I was in fight or flight all the time. There was never any rest.
In 2014, Simon realised he couldn't carry on like this, and once again went to see a psychiatrist.
He diagnosed me with severe and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. The only complexity being the amount of exposure I've had to traumatic incidents. It all began to disintegrate. The day I broke, I got to work after being advised not to go in, and something happened at work. And I just marched up to the inspector's office and said, I don't want to be a cop anymore. And he was a very kindly man, sort of sat me down, wrote a report and said, basically sent me home, so I don't expect to see you again. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done, because I loved being a police officer so much. It was my entire life.
Andy Roebuck is the chair of Avon and Somerset Police Federation and has become good friends with Simon since hearing about what he's been through.
How's it all going?
I'm all right, mate, yeah, not too bad.
Simon's a great person, and I think he has a real story to tell.
It's going all right, touch wood.
There's things in there that can happen to anyone within the police. We've got to learn from that, because I have to be honest, I think as an organisation we've made mistakes. I would like to think that if Simon was in those positions that he was those few years ago, that actually now he wouldn't have had to be shown the door.
Yeah,
We've missed an opportunity. You know, we've got a really passionate guy who wants to be a police officer, who was doing all sorts of wonderful things, who was proactive, who was keen, enthusiastic, who was known as Mudge, who would go out and make those arrests, and that's what people want, as far as, or one of the things that people want as police officers, and probably as an organisation we took our eye off of that. We have to make sure that people like Mudge don't fall through the net again. You know, if they are broken, let's repair them. Let's take responsibility to build them and make them and their family a better, stronger unit.
When you're a police officer, you have standing in the community. You can do things, you can help people, you can have an impact. All of a sudden, you go from that to civilian, and it's like, I grieved it. I miss it desperately. I miss it desperately.
Later, we see how Simon's adjusting to life outside the police.
I think Dad is the bravest dad in the world.
If Dad gets anxious, I'm just going to say to him that I'm going to be always here for him.
They are the reason I still push on every day.
Assaults and attacks aren't the only way police officers are injured or put in danger. In this clip, 2 officers from the Metropolitan Police are on duty when they're alerted to a fire near flats behind commercial premises. Without hesitating, the officers rush in to warn residents of the nearby fire that's quickly spreading towards their homes. As the officers force entry to the flats, they're engulfed in smoke.
OK, knock on all the doors of the houses, get people to go.
A brave member of the public comes to assist, and all 3 work tirelessly to move the residents to safety.
Anyone in there? Get out!
Thanks to their actions, all occupants are safely evacuated. Some are treated for smoke inhalation by London Ambulance Service.
Everybody out, leave them.
London Fire Brigade arrive at the location and quickly get the fire under control, leaving only minor damage to the residents' homes. The 2 officers are also treated at the scene for smoke inhalation. Both officers and the member of the public who assisted them are praised for their quick-thinking actions, which meant no one was seriously injured. Neither officer was seriously harmed, and both went straight back out on duty. Kent Police Chief Constable Alan Pewsley is spending the day with his dedicated team who tackle county lines drug crimes.
There's a mixture of investigators, disruption officers, intelligence officers and research officers. They're a fantastic team and I'm going to increase the strength of them. It's a growing problem. We have got a good grip of it, but this is something that I will not allow to fester in our communities. These sort of criminals will have no thought, no reservation about injuring my officers. They have no thought about putting a knife through my officers, in my view. So we train them, we skill them, we equip them, and it's one reason that this force, any frontline officer dealing with these people, has the opportunity to be trained in Taser.
Today, the team is aiming to track down one suspected county lines dealer in particular.
The way a county line works is there's somebody at the top of the line who gets lots of foot soldiers to do their dirty work on the street. So we can take the foot soldiers out every day and they get replaced by other foot soldiers. We go up to the top. We go to the head of the county line, take the head off the snake, so to speak, and just take that county line drug dealer out completely. That's who we're after today.
The Wellesley network is in the top 4 of our county line in Kent. At this address, a Nokia burner phone was located and subsequent checks revealed new evidence that he was, in fact, in control of the Wellesley line.
The team is attending a briefing on the individual they are targeting today as they prepare to arrest and charge the male based on intelligence they have received that he's running a known county line.
Just to make you aware, boss, our guys are aware, officer safety warnings. He's previously assaulted police and he's known to carry a knife when drug dealing. There's also intelligence that he's previously carried a small hammer in his waistband. OK, so just make sure you've got your kit on you and be safe.
Ready to go and get him. Yeah. These county line drug dealers, violence is routine for them, carrying weaponry is routine for them. So we're going to an address today to try and find a county line drug dealer, a very violent individual. He needs apprehending, he needs arresting, and we need to take this dangerous man off the streets.
Hello there, it's the police. We've got a quick word, don't worry about. It's the police. Open the door, please.
The man they've been hoping to catch is at the address. They've arrested and handcuffed him and will now escort him back to the station for questioning. But he's not about to go quietly.
Calm down. Stop tensing up. Stop tensing up. Stop tensing up. Don't do it. Don't do it. Get off.
You can see all day long, you know, he's under arrest, he's handcuffed, you can see how violent he's got, and it's a pretty controlled situation, but still a very violent individual. That's what they're dealing with all the time. Every single day that we're dealing with county line drug dealers, that's what we're dealing with. Great work, my officers again.
So there were 2 phones, which have got a PIN code, but we'll obviously download this phone and see what comes of it, really. And that, I believe, is his personal. But we'll take him back. He's getting a bit fruity, so I'll go and respond. Yeah.
Get off me, you lot!
So they now think he's going to search the address because we can search the address because he's been arrested, playing up like mad, as you can hear.
Do you want to jump in, Chief?
Okay.
It's been a successful day for the team. They've caught and arrested a suspected drug dealer.
Today has been really successful. We wanted to arrest a significant county line drug dealer, and we have arrested him. Equally important, none of my officers were injured, but he did afford some violence. He was aggressive, but the verbal aggression didn't turn into any assault to my officers today. But yeah, he's been arrested. Really successful.
That way.
There's no hiding place for these criminals down in Kent. He wants to carry on drug dealing on the streets without being confronted. Well, he's not going to do that in Kent. This team will confront him and they will arrest him as they did today. He's downstairs in the cells now and he'll be interviewed later by my detectives.
The offender was charged with being concerned in the supply of heroin and crack cocaine. He subsequently pleaded guilty and is currently awaiting sentencing. Chief Constable Pewsley is keen to raise awareness of what his officers deal with on a daily basis.
When you look at dealing with crime, it's probably about 1/3 of what we deal with. The other 2/3 are calls for help, keeping people safe, looking after the vulnerable, mental health issues, missing children, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So actually fighting and dealing with crime is probably about 1/3 of what we do. The rest of it is protecting and keeping people safe in a hugely, hugely broad way. What I would like the public to know more of is see the violence that is afforded to my officers, the vitriol that is afforded to my officers, the abuse they face on a daily basis, and the completely brilliant professional way they deal with it. When they've seen that, they will understand what a fantastic, challenging, rewarding, but difficult job we face. And we only do it for one reason: keep the public safe.
Police officers are often faced with terrifying situations. They have to make quick decisions to prevent incidents from spiralling out of control. In this CCTV footage, 2 thieves are seen robbing a shop in South Yorkshire. The criminals are trying to steal alcohol and cigarettes. A brave officer, PC Del Owen, tackles one of the criminals to the floor and sprays him with barber spray. The accomplice is seen taking a machete out of his coat and hiding it behind a refrigerator screen. Within moments, he's apprehended by PC Ben Hawley. Both officers were acknowledged for their tremendous bravery during the failed raid. One offender pleaded guilty to aggravated burglary and possession of a blade. He was jailed for 3 years and 4 months. The other pleaded guilty to a single charge of aggravated burglary in connection with the incident. He was jailed for 4 years and 8 months.
Here you, fella.
Back in Somerset, Simon Mudge is learning to cope with a very different life outside of the police force, with the support of his loving family.
I mean, I'm better than I was. I am better than I was, and I've got techniques that I use to ground myself when things get on top. I have to have a routine. I clean the house, I take the kids to school. Any change in my routine really upsets me. Little victories for me is going training. I weight train twice a week. Just increasing the weight you can lift or having a good session. That's a win for me. Watching my girls grow up, and become young ladies is you know, a huge one for me.
Yeah, they do take care of me, and they mean the world to me, all of them.
That's good. Now I'm going to drive a car.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think mainly is my wife providing the steady life, steady and stable environment for us all.
I have to remember that it's not personal. So his PTSD is not about me, it's not about our relationship, it's about what he's experienced previously. So I do have to remember that, because sometimes he can get quite personal. If he's in that place where he's feeling really low and his emotions are sort of taking him over, or he's having a flashback, it's not about me, it's about the trauma. Ultimately, I love Simon, and I have always loved him, and you know, it is now part of who he is. It's part of the man that, you know, I spend my life with.
Happy now?
I've been honest with the girls, because Poppy's 8 now, Lily's 10, Ella's 16, so I've explained to them all that I have PTSD, that sometimes, you know, I'll be a bit moody or a bit down.
We don't tell them everything. I don't believe children need to know everything, but they do understand that Daddy is different to other daddies.
And this is your life. This is your menstrual state. This is the mom, Polly, Poppy. This is me. This is someone you arrested. This is your pill, your weights, and your police helmet.
It's so insightful of the girls, you know, and so thoughtful. I love it. What they do is really special. You know, it just goes to show how much they think about things.
Now that I'm 10, I know what actually is going on, and I love Daddy so much. He's the best dad I could ever want. I don't know what I would do without him. He's always been a special dad, like, because there's no other dad like him. There's no one that can pull off a t-shirt like that. If something's wrong with Dad, then it doesn't work to try and hide it, because we will always know if something's wrong.
But you always find out, like we always find out when you have fish and chips.
Yeah.
You do always find out, that's right.
Find out.
For now, Simon is working on rediscovering his place in the world.
My hope is, as time goes on and as the girls get older, that he will realise that life outside the police service is just as important, and that he can have a fulfilled life. He's got a purpose that isn't just being a police officer. That's my hope for him.
Things are improving, definitely improving. I don't feel like I live from day to day anymore. For years and years and years, my name was Mudge. That persona carried me through the police service, but now I'm Simon. And it doesn't sound like anything at all, but for me it's quite a major thing. You know, I'm not that person anymore. I'm just a man, a father, a husband. You know, that's what I am. You know, that's who I am these days. And I'm more than comfortable with that.
Nine-ers risk their lives every day keeping us safe.
You're putting yourself out there to help other people at their most precious time of need.
But all too often, they're abused and attacked.
Their house is on fire and they're attacking us.
I was standing up with her hands around my throat.
These personal attacks on police, paramedics and firefighters are at an all-time high.
He's telling me I'm going to kill your wife and I'm going to kill your family and I'm going to kill you.
Leaving them traumatised and unable to work.
How do you come to terms with knowing that you can't go and do the job that you love?
But while the violent criminals responsible are hunted down and brought to justice, our protectors fight to get well and back on the job.
We kept people safe, we put away the bad guys.
I'm not going to let some man ruin it for me. This is my future, this is what I enjoy doing.
Ready to face the next critical incident. Coming up, a police officer shot at close range risks losing his sight.
Almost immediately, John says, I've been shot.
I knew I'd been shot in the face and I could feel the blood.
A motorcyclist causes mayhem as he speeds through the streets. And we're back with PC Clare Bond, who was left seriously injured after being driven into by a car.
He started reversing the car, dragging me down the fence.
But 1 year on, she's ready to return to the job she loves.
You did really, really well. It's really, really good.
I'm trying to go back to work with a better version of myself.
John King and Kevin Mulligan have been friends for 40 years. As well as growing up together, they both chose the same career path.
You right, son?
Yeah, good. I was a bricklayer for 6 years, and my dad was a police officer, and I can remember one Christmas coming home. I hadn't laid any bricks, didn't have any money, hadn't really thought about the police. My dad said, "Why don't you give it a try?" He loved being in the police.
We grew up in the same kind of town, had the same kind of interests, music, same circle of friends really, and so from early teens we knew each other. Then John joined the police. And 5 years after that, I joined the police.
If you spend 8 hours in a car with somebody, you spend more time with them than you'd spend with your wife. It's a support network as well, isn't it? You'll go to a job, somebody's been badly injured or, something to do with a child, and you support each other, don't you?
This friendship was a huge comfort to them both during the aftermath of the most distressing event of their careers.
We got really close from doing the job we loved. There's a connect and a bond that...
Yeah, there's a bond that...
Because you've been through it. You've been through something that no one else should have to go through.
It was October 2014, and John and Kevin were on a night shift.
That's the balcony there, isn't it?
Yep. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
It's weird sitting here, isn't it?
Yeah. I do remember looking over the edge of that balcony and thinking, I need to jump off here.
A call came in to attend a residential address.
He was a mental health patient who hadn't been taking his medication. His family had rung in, worried about him, and they couldn't gain access to his flat.
In these cases, no one really wants to use force unless it's absolutely necessary. John and myself were standing on the landing of this flat and communicating with the guy that was behind the door.
We were telling him we weren't there to hurt him, and we weren't there to hurt him. We were there to get him, get him mental health help.
We'd got to the point where communications and dialogue had proven fruitless. So we took the decision to force entry.
I hit the door a couple of times, but it was a plastic door and it just wasn't going through. So I stepped back, and then Kev started hitting the door.
It's a UPVC door, it's new. So rather than go for the lock or the hinges, there's a panel in the centre. So I thought if I could create a void in the panel, we could at least start some dialogue with the individual. And we meant business, really, in his best interest to secure him out.
Kevin smashed a small hole in the door, but before they could begin a conversation, things spiralled out of control.
Almost immediately, John says, "I've been shot." And I'll never forget those words, "I've been shot."
I just felt just a crashing blow on my right eye. I knew I'd been shot in the face, and I could feel the blood on my face, and I knew I had to get off the balcony.
We had to get him past the door, by which time it had obviously got a big hole in it.
And he was still firing.
He was still firing out at us. We had to get past that and get John down the steps.
I'd thought about jumping off the balcony, but I realised that I was going to get possibly, worse injuries jumping off.
Meanwhile, the gunman shot again through the hole in the door.
And he shot again, and a second shot, as I turned to the side to go down the steps, hit me just to the side of my left eye and glanced, luckily, across my eyeball and didn't go into my eye socket.
Fortunately for John, an ambulance was already on the scene.
I can remember a young lad, a young paramedic jumping into the back, looking at me and saying, you know, he was, oh my God. And I can remember saying to him, you tell me that I look all right. And he said, you look all right, you look all right.
John had been shot in the eye with a rubber ball from a paintball gun. Now Kevin had to make sure that no one else got hurt.
John went off on the ambulance. Now that left me in a situation because I've still got a duty to protect the public and protect the guy that's in the flat. But it's serious business now.
Did you call firearms then, did you?
Yeah, so we shouted up on the radio what had gone on. Team came, the instructions they gave him, he abided by, and he came out very calm. It was over very quickly.
John was rushed to the hospital as quickly as possible. At home, his wife Lisa, also a police officer, knew nothing about the incident.
I was at home with the children. John had gone to work a night shift as always, and there was a knock on the door, which everybody kind of dreads, don't they, in the middle of the night. And being a police officer and then opening the door to a police officer, I kind of knew it was bad news.
That's not anything that any of us ever want to do. Knock on the front door of a colleague, of a friend, and tell their partner or loved one that there's been an incident of that magnitude.
He'd been at the scene, so he would have seen that it wasn't very pleasant to look at. So he kind of tried to prepare me a little bit. He said, well, we really don't know how bad his eye is. We really don't know whether he's going to lose his eye.
I don't think it necessarily sunk in to start with. And it was only when I was in the car when we were going over to Birmingham Eye Hospital, where he was taken to, that it kind of started sinking in.
So I got a little bit worked up then, thinking, because obviously he'd gone in his eye, and I'm thinking, is his face going to be all injured? And just thinking the worst, really. When we walked through the door, he had covering over it. So immediately I'm thinking, oh, how bad is this? But at that time, we didn't know the severity of what had happened.
Later, doctors struggled to save John's sight.
The damage was far worse than they'd expected, and there was probably not a lot of chance of me being able to see through it.
It's not just police officers who put their lives at risk in the line of duty. Service animals like police dogs also face danger. In 2019, a new law was passed to protect such animals. Finn's law was inspired by brave police dog Finn, who was stabbed along with his handler, PC Wardell, in 2016. This footage from 2019 highlights just how important the role of the police dog is in catching criminals.
What's this? Thief?
Northumbria police receive a report of a burglary in a shop. Two men had forced entry and tried to steal some cigarettes. Their vehicle was found abandoned 30 miles away, and it was up to police dog Max and his officer to find any suspects or evidence. Max tracked the surrounding area and successfully located vital pieces of evidence, including a balaclava, clothing, and gloves hidden in undergrowth nearby.
Good boy.
Forensics from the balaclava helped secure a conviction and put a burglar behind bars. PC Fegan of the Force's dog section said, "Max has had a lot of very good jobs, but this is right up there with one of the best." The thief was convicted of burglary at Newcastle Crown Court. He was sentenced to 23 weeks in prison. Vehicles in the wrong hands can be as dangerous as any weapon. And one person who knows the damage vehicles can do more than most is PC Clare Bond. We first met Claire 15 months ago, shortly after she'd been mowed down by a criminal driver she was trying to arrest.
This is the fence that he's pinned me up against, and he's reversed down this pathway and has literally dragged me back along here, all the way to the bottom where the car has flipped me out.
The incident occurred in September 2018. Claire and her partner received a call about a reckless driver on the streets of Stafford.
We found out that the 10K Stafford run was on that day. We were quite concerned because of the runners.
I've never had a pursuit where somebody he literally will not stop for anything. The whole time, thousands of people that were running up the road, and there was clearly no way he would have stopped.
Claire and Dave pursued the car for some minutes before it eventually crashed and came to a stop. But when Claire tried to take the car keys off the driver, he took drastic action.
When he started reversing the car, dragging me down the fence, and it was like I was in a washing machine. It was my body was just like turning. Then all of a sudden I felt a quite hard hit, and I remember thinking my legs hurt.
Clearly in lots and lots of pain, so there was nothing I could do. I just had to hold her.
Claire's right knee was split open and the bones in her left leg were shattered.
It's been quite a rough road for all of us. It's quite difficult doing that to a fit woman, you know, who days before was able-bodied, and now, like, you know, I literally had to look after her like, you know, she was completely paralysed.
12 months after the incident, the offender was jailed for 12 years and 9 months for causing grievous bodily harm with intent to resist arrest and other offences.
I was really nervous. The first time I've gone to Crown Court, the judge asked me to read my victim personal statement, and when I was doing so, he listened to every word. What mattered is that I was heard. That was a huge part that I could then put to bed.
But although the trial was over, Claire's rehabilitation was only just beginning.
I was so positive in my mental attitude up until probably June last year, where I noticed quite a dip in how I was feeling. I started my counselling, and with that I mean some specialist trauma work. Not many people know the symptoms of PTSD. The latter 6 months of 2019 was a further few operations, which kind of was like 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Claire still has a mountain to climb, but she's persevering. It's 1 year on since the incident, and she's back at the Stafford 10K. But this time she's participating in the event. She's raising funds for the police charity COPS and hopes to walk the last kilometre.
I'm excited. I woke up this morning excited. I think the whole point of doing it, not only to raise money, was kind of to give me and Dave a bit of closure. A lot of people have been saying hi and waving. We've had donations already. I'm not shy when it comes to raising a few funds, so. My phone just keeps pinging of people saying, look, just do what you can, but I'm adamant that I'm going to cross the line. I'm proud of us as a group. I'm proud of where Dave's come from, and we've really made a good friendship out of this.
Yeah, certainly, definitely a friendship from this that I didn't have with it before. So that's the sort of thing you've got to look for, really, that positives out of these things that happen.
Darren and Dave are going to run off and do the 10K, catch me up at around about 9, and then we'll all walk across the line together.
It's just nice to sort of draw a line under it, and certainly be a different experience to what it was 12 months ago.
It's nice for us to smile about it, and for Darren to do the run, and for us all to just come together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thanks ever so much.
For the first time since Claire's horrific attack, she is walking 1 kilometre, and the people of Stafford are all cheering for her.
Thanks. Keep it safe, thank you. Fantastic. The fact that these people have run all this way and they're saying, "Come on, Claire," it's just amazing. I wasn't expecting that. My legs are shaking. Oh, I love ya.
I can't see anymore.
Love you.
An event like that just brings everyone together. People just supporting each other, and I think that's a good community spirit.
That whole race.
Pleasure. Oh, well done. Thank you. Brilliant. It feels like I've wiped the slate clean of what happened a year ago, which was so dark, to then this year being so uplifting. I'm just in awe, really. I'm on top of the world. I think it's gone better than we ever envisaged, to be fair. I'm going to sit myself down. We've done it, they've done it. I'm so proud of Dave and Darren for running all that way. I feel like I've run the whole 10K myself. It's another personal goal completed.
Later, we catch up with Claire as she works hard to achieve her next goal, getting back to work.
I got quite emotional, really, because they're things that I want to start taking for granted again.
Police do have a useful tool in their armoury to fight vehicle crime, the Stinger. A Stinger is a device deployed to stop dangerous drivers in their tracks. In this footage, a motorcyclist speeds away when police try to stop him, after noticing that he was acting suspiciously and driving dangerously. Police pursue the motorbike as it drives recklessly, mounting pavements, cutting across roundabouts, and riding on the wrong side of the road, putting everyone in danger. The police were authorised to use tactical contact to stop the motorcyclist. They then use a Stinger to successfully end the pursuit. The driver pleaded guilty to dangerous driving, driving without a licence or insurance, and other offences. He was jailed for 8 months and banned from driving for 18 months. Still to come, police officer John King sustains a life-changing injury, but the support of his family and friends helps him heal.
I love him. I really do love you.
And I love you, mate, you know I do.
Yeah, I love you too.
John's probably the only person that's kept the optimism up.
And a stint in the police treatment centre prepares Clare Bond for returning to work.
I think what I've got to realise is that I'm still the same person, and that I'm proud of myself.
She's looking towards the future. She's looking towards that goal.
In Cannock, John King has been shot in the eye as he tried to help a man suffering with severe mental health issues. Unknown to John and his colleagues, the man was armed.
I knew I'd been shot in the face, and I could feel the blood on my face.
And I'll never forget those words. I've been shot.
While he was rushed to hospital, John's wife Lisa was contacted with the news.
He said, well, we really don't know how bad his eye is. We really don't know whether he's going to lose his eye, and I think you need to come to the hospital.
John was transferred to the Birmingham Midland Eye Centre.
They operated on me the first full day I was there, and what they'd done is they'd managed to stitch my battered eyeball back together. They got everything that goes inside an eyeball, like your lens and everything, and they'd put it all back in and then just stitched it back together. They had said to me, though, the damage was far worse than they'd expected, and there was probably not a lot of chance of me being able to see through it.
John can't remember a lot of that week because of the medication that he was on. I obviously was at home at night time with the children while he was in hospital, and he'd be phoning me at 3 in the morning just sobbing and really upset. But he can't remember doing that. It was more traumatic than he perhaps remembers at the time, but it wasn't very pleasant to hear that.
John spent the next few months at home, hoping his eye would heal and that he might regain some of his vision.
The eye was really painful. It was smaller than my other eye, and also it was just white, really.
I was having to help him with his medication and put eye cream in and stuff like that because he couldn't do everything himself. He was awake most nights in pain, which again he can't remember, but he was. So of course I'm awake.
And then I had a lot of eye tests just to see if I'd got any vision at all, but nothing had come back. I then made the decision, because it was painful, I decided just to have the eye removed because the pain was just, it wasn't going away.
Once John's mind was made up, surgery was arranged immediately. Using cutting-edge technology, doctors placed a hand-painted eye into John's eye socket.
I think the way that he helped himself initially was through a video diary of the emotions.
I've been out of surgery for about 3 hours. I've just spoke to my surgeon who carried it out, and he's saying it went really, really well. They've removed most of my blind eye, put the old ping pong ball in, they put a cover on it. He's saying it looks shape-wise great, which I'm happy about, and I'm over the moon. And then what they do is they put a prosthetic implant in, the same shape as an eyeball, and then they sew the skin around it. And that just means that my eye moves. It doesn't move as much as my good eye, but it's close enough.
John now has a routine to help maintain his prosthetic eye. A painless procedure that involves removing it and keeping it clean.
It's supposed to be polished about every 2-3 years, but I just find that as long as I keep it and myself clean, it's been fine.
When he takes that eye out, he's unrecognisable, you know. And there are times, because of comfort, that he would like to take it out, because it is like having a foreign body in your body, really. So he would like to take it out. But then he doesn't like how he looks, so it's sort of a catch-22 there.
The loss of John's eye has had a huge impact on his life.
Socially, he will avoid crowds at all costs because he just feels a nuisance, and he'll say that.
If I don't see you, I don't move enough, so I do bump into people, which can be a pain. So crowds are a bit of a game.
He gets all disorientated if he's pushed around and stuff, and that doesn't help his mood. So it has been quite stressful in some places to be around him.
My little lad, who was 5 at the time, it hit him quite hard and his school suffered a bit.
There was a time that he didn't want to be in the same room as John. So trying to juggle that and trying to get him to bond again with Daddy was difficult, you know, it's emotional.
John's son Will, who is now 10, can still recall the trauma of his dad being injured.
It was quite shocking, really, to believe that he was alive, because I'd gone without seeing him, apart from my news from Mum. I'd thought he was dead. I was really sad about my dad and always worried that something would happen to him, as he'd just been injured. What if something happened again, and what if he wouldn't get better this time? What if he wouldn't wake up again?
Two years after the incident, John and his team attended the trial of the offender. In a finding of fact hearing due to the offender's mental ill health, the jury found the offender had caused grievous bodily harm and had been in possession of a prohibited firearm. He was given an indefinite hospital order.
I've got no animosity. I met his mum at the court case and put my arm around her. She's had a lifetime of this.
He was poorly, mentally he was poorly, and although his family were fantastic around him, and I know that, having met them, there's only so much they can do to make him take medication, which he hadn't done. So it was unfortunate for him that he'd got himself in that situation.
But you know about the guy that did it, that he wasn't taking his medication, that he didn't mean to hurt anybody.
And I forgive him. You forgive him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't see any reason why, like, other people shouldn't forgive him, because he couldn't help it. He wasn't in control at that point. Therefore, it's not his fault.
Another person who was deeply affected by the incident was John's friend and colleague, Kevin Mulligan.
I wouldn't wish it on me worst enemy.
No. But it could have been a lot worse. That's how cops look at it, innit? Could have been a lot worse. We're cops, it could have been a lot worse. He could have got just more than me.
There isn't a day goes by I don't think about it. There isn't a day go by I feel guilty because it wasn't me that got shot, and because I was at the front. I suppose that's just something I'm going to have to live with, really.
As John and Kevin revisit the scene of the incident, John feels he's gained some closure. Having now retired, this is the place where he carried out his final policing duties.
It's taken me back to a previous life, but a life that I loved, because, of course, from the night of the shooting, I never went back to it. And I loved the police, absolutely loved every second of it. So I feel sad that it all came to an end then, but, you know, life moves on.
It wasn't easy to see John coming to the end of his career in such circumstances, because he was job through and through.
I just think it's a shame that I'm not, that he'll never remember, really, as he grows up, about me being a police officer.
It's quite vivid in my memory.
Well, that's good.
Your days as a police officer, so I don't think I'll forget it anytime soon.
Can't live your life on regrets. We've just got to accept it. Thankfully.
Yeah, thankfully.
We're here to tell the tale.
But John has managed to find a new passion in his life.
I think playing the guitar saved me, really, because that was something that I'd always done. It's a great big stress relief and comforter to be able to lose yourself with an instrument. When I got out of hospital, I'd actually bought myself like a little recording desk, and I wrote an album in about 2 weeks. Been writing ever since, and that's from 20 years of not writing anything. So you know, it wasn't worth losing an eye for, but it really has helped me.
In all of it, John's probably the only person that's kept the optimism up, you know, and he's been the person that's lifted everybody's spirits around it. I really admire him for that.
Cheers, pal.
Yeah, cheers, good.
I love him like a brother. That's not going to change, and we miss him terribly. But what he did for us as a service, and certainly as a team, won't be forgotten, and we've been carrying on in his memory in that way.
I love him. I really do love you, and if anything happened to you, even if it was just like a little
splinter,
I'd still really, really worry about you.
Well, you don't need to worry about me, and I love you, mate, you know I do.
Yeah, I love you too.
In 2017 to 18, the West Midlands experienced the biggest hike in knife crime in any part of the country outside London. 2 West Midlands police officers were on plainclothes patrols last year when the force received a flurry of 999 calls reporting a man in a Birmingham street with a 2-foot-long blade. Despite being unarmed, the 2 officers, on spotting the man with a weapon, gave chase for around half a mile. They eventually wrestled the knife man to the floor and disarmed him. He was also found to be in possession of a lock knife. Both officers went on to receive commendations from the Chief Constable. The offender admitted possessing an offensive weapon and making threats with a bladed article, and was given an indefinite hospital order under the Mental Health Act. Back in Stafford, PC Clare Bond is recovering from a serious injury, having been knocked down by a car following a pursuit.
Thanks ever so much.
I can't see anymore.
She has just walked the last kilometre of the Stafford 10K to mark the passing of exactly 1 year since the incident. This is the first time that Claire has walked this far in 12 months, and it's been a huge boost for her.
I'm on top of the world. I think it's gone better than we ever envisaged, to be fair. It's another personal goal completed.
Come on.
This week, Claire received some news about her prognosis.
Wednesday, I went down to see a knee specialist in London, and he was quite blunt and said, it's unlikely that you'll be able to go back frontline.
I think I knew deep down that whether Claire would be able to go back frontline or not, I would never want her to, I don't think. I don't. It just wouldn't sit right, and I don't think the kids would want her to. I know our older children don't want her to go back frontline.
Although she can't go back to frontline policing, Claire still wants to go back to work. She has decided to attend the police treatment centre in Harrogate, where she hopes the rehabilitation programme will help her injuries to heal quicker.
You're going to push that bent knee away from you.
My 2 weeks here is for me to see how far I can push myself. Each and every time it's lifted me up to come to a place like this and have the facilities to use has been a lifesaver, really.
At the treatment centre, Claire has access to high-tech machinery like this anti-gravity treadmill, which will help her to regain her mobility.
Pull that lever across there. You then drop it. This should come out backwards. And then what you do is stand on that one to get in. That's it. Use your hand. So this is an Alter-G treadmill, and this is going to reduce the gravity that's going to be on Claire's legs. So the point of it is that being able to do activities, but with less weight, basically. You're just going to press that green button to press start. It's going to calibrate. You're going to feel it blow, and then it'll come down and then blow again. Just try and stay as still as you can. What we're hoping is that when you're walking, you find it easier to have a normal walking pattern. And that's where actually pacing your rehab, which is what this is doing, by reducing the gravity, so reducing the load on that area. It's a bit like going to the gym and starting doing your biceps with 1 kilogram, not trying to start on 5. Yeah. So you can use that as an element of a goal setting.
There is no doubt that Claire is throwing herself into her recovery. She's even had a visit from the centre's therapy dog. Anne has been bringing her therapy dogs to the centre for 4.5 years. Her dogs are trained to provide affection, support and comfort to people who are ill or have experienced trauma.
You automatically want to put your arms around his neck and give him a good old cuddle.
They're very de-stressing. You can't argue with a dog and they give you unconditional love.
Yeah.
I know he's got a lovely temperament, but we socialise him a lot to meet other people and dogs. Yeah. And you get an idea from the word go if they're going to be all right to do this.
What's this boy called?
Reckless.
Reckless. And where did that come from?
Well, our other ones are Riot, Mayhem, Carnage, and the new puppy is going to be Havoc. But we do feel a bit silly in the field, shouting, Riot, Carnage.
Oh, that's lovely. I needed a wash.
Just going to get a little bit more elaborate with that each time.
Claire's movement is improving all the time.
Part of my rehabilitation, the balance, the walking on different surfaces, the bending down, it's been a huge eye-opener as to what we take for granted. It's not until you've gone through something that's impacted on your mobility that you realise that you do take these things for granted. I see people in the classes jumping off things, and they're all things that I cannot do at the moment.
So what we'll do is we'll go back down to the floor, feel free, and then just back through that knee. Excellent, good control. It's all right, they did really, really well. It's really, really good. It takes a lot of a big amount of effort to do that. It was good. Okay? Good. All right.
I got quite emotional, really, because they're things that I want to start taking for granted again. And being able to just do without actually thinking, can my legs take it or not? And clearly they can. Where I've said, oh no, I'm not really keen on that. I think they're the ones I've got to try and work harder at. I am extremely proud of myself. It's very difficult for me to say that. Go into a class like that and actually start to feel stronger about myself. And I think that these next 2 weeks, I can do that here. I can push perhaps to even more than I thought I'm capable of.
So this one's moving really easily. This bit still feels a bit tight, but I'm aware that if I keep going, it's probably just going to be quite sore, so I'm actually going to leave that alone. No, those scars are amazing for the number of re-entries and the trauma. She's healing really well, and I think that is probably indicative of where she's at this moment in time with her rehab, where she's at with her well-being. But she obviously looks after herself, because if you're not looking after your health, you won't heal as well. But that also shows that you're obviously, you know, good at healing. A couple of years with a bit more sunshine on all of these, they will fade. She has got a bounce in the step that will get bouncier as she gets stronger.
Despite all the hardship, Claire still has faith in humanity.
The one thing that I could never have envisaged happening was the support from people that didn't even know me. They'd never met me before, but have written to me with such amazing support. Dear Claire, you and officers like you are a credit to any force. Hopefully that you'll be back doing a job that you love. Best wishes to you and your family. There are some amazing good people in this world. People have recognised that you don't do too bad a job in the police force.
In 18 months, Claire has achieved the seemingly impossible and is now walking unaided.
I think what I've got to realise is that I'm still the same person and that I'm proud of myself. I'm trying to go back to work with a better version of myself for my kids to be able to go. That was my mum.
A few weeks later, and Claire's big moment has arrived. She's returning to work and will be working in the training department of Staffordshire Police.
How you feeling, Mum?
Bit nervous. But Quite excited. First time I've got my boots on. Let's see if they take care of me like they did before. There you go.
You've got this.
All ready? So I've just turned up for work, but it's been a long old 18 months. I'm quite nervous, to be fair. I've been having butterflies the whole journey here. I think the first hurdle was getting into my uniform this morning and actually coming into the police headquarters. I think at this time we all need to muck in, and I think that's the main thing, is that I want to feel useful. Here we go. Wish me luck.
Hey, there she is.
That was good. I need to get my boots off now. Change out my uniform, so...
Yeah.
Get my teacher hat on now.
Yeah.
Got some homework, no?
No.
999ers risk their lives every day keeping us safe.
You're putting yourself out there to help other people at their most precious time of need.
But all too often, they're abused and attacked.
Their house is on fire and they're attacking us.
I was standing up with her hands around my throat.
These personal attacks on police, paramedics and firefighters are at an all-time high.
He's telling me, I'm going to kill your wife and I'm going to kill your family and I'm going to kill you.
Leaving them traumatised and unable to work.
How do you come to terms with knowing that you can't go and do the job that you love?
But while the violent criminals responsible are hunted down and brought to justice, our protectors fight to get well and back on the job.
We kept people safe, we put away the bad guys.
I'm not going to let some man ruin it for me. This is my future, this is what I enjoy doing.
Ready to face the next critical incident. Coming up, a former Belfast police officer recalls an attack in 1981 that nearly cost him his life.
My first thought was, oh, it's a blast bomb, but we're safe enough in here.
A paramedic is caught up in a violent domestic dispute.
I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. My mind was doing so many different things, trying to work out what I should do, that I was unable to do anything.
And a response officer visits a specialised police treatment centre after a vicious attack.
The injury as a whole has affected my whole life. Playing sport is my life, you know. But I haven't been able to do that. I haven't been able to do anything.
While all emergency service workers are vulnerable to assault in the line of duty every day, those working in areas where conflict is prevalent deal with a different type of threat. In Northern Ireland, there was a time when emergency service workers faced fear and danger on a daily basis. Joining the police in Northern Ireland at the height of this conflict wouldn't seem a tempting prospect for many. But Michael Patterson was keen to become part of what was then the Royal Ulster Constabulary.
When I was 21, I applied and then was accepted at age 22 and went into the training centre. And it was something that I felt that I wanted to do. I had a number of friends who were in the police and they enjoyed the time they were having there. And it was the sort of life that I felt that I would enjoy too. So I went to the training centre in April 1979 and I was then attached to the Special Patrol Group, which was public order and anti-terrorist role. My first week in that station, I was picking up body parts, so it was a rude awakening for a young lad of 22 who had never experienced anything like that before. So it was a very powerful introduction to policing in Northern Ireland for me. We all had personal protection weapons and they would have been carried with us at Certainly I carried mine at all times, because one never knew whenever a possible attack would occur. So it could be that if you created a pattern, then you're going to be targeted. If you had a personal protection weapon available, well, it meant at least you had a chance.
While Michael got used to life in the RUC, he met the love of his life, Hazel.
I was about 22 and I loved disco dancing. So young and, you'd say, full of energy. So we're at one of our local discos, and his team had won the tug of war, some competition they were at, and he was there, so they were all merry. I think having won maybe extra pint. And so he came over and asked me to dance, and I thought he was quite funny and jovial, and he wasn't bad looking, he was easy on the eye. So probably that's how it started. We're married quite probably quick in a way, about 2 years from meeting.
But Hazel and Michael's honeymoon period was cut drastically short.
It was my wife's birthday, and 20th of September 1981, and it was a nice autumn day. The sun was shining, and I'd been married 3 weeks at this point. So we got up for an early turn in Woodburn Police Station, and we went in by Land Rover. I must say Land Rover, it was an armoured Land Rover, and the armour on it was about a centimetre thick. And so in we went, paraded for duty, detailed for the various duties. In the Land Rover we had Alec Beck driving, myself in the front, and in the back we had another police officer. There was a second Land Rover as well, and the idea of this was to have some backup in case one Land Rover was attacked, the others could respond. And this was the nature of policing. It was always 2 Land Rovers, and the second Land Rover I think had 3 police officers in it as well. And we'd been driving around for a while, the sun was shining, there was a general chat that you'd have, a bit of banter between the lads. And towards the latter end of the morning, we're driving up Suffolk Road, and we'd slowed down to go over a speed ramp. And I was suddenly aware of a blast flash out to the side. And my first thought was, oh, it's a blast bomb, but we're safe enough in here. And then I wondered immediately why we're not moving, and looked over and saw Alec. And Alec was slumped over. And I could tell at that particular point that he was dead. And then I was aware of the horns and the Land Rover going nee-naw, nee-naw, nee-naw. And then my instinctive was to reach out to switch them off, but then I had no hand to switch them off with. These are designed to burn through the armour of tanks and explode inside and kill everybody inside. But us with this thin armour burned through, killed Alec, injured me, burned out my door and exploded outside. So that was fortunate for me that it didn't explode inside. And also for Phil, he was in the back.
Michael was then rushed to the nearby Royal Victoria Hospital.
There was this flurry of activity around me, and I was aware of the body armour being cut free and lifted off, the trousers being cut away.
Michael had lost both his arms in the attack, and at one point, it was feared his leg may have to be amputated.
You can imagine losing 2 arms would be very painful, but it wasn't. Being in that dissociated state, it was like things were closed down emotionally, and so I wasn't able to feel the pain. But I remember as I was lying there too and thinking, who's going to tell Hazel?
My boss said, the director wants a word with you. And then I saw a police officer and I just realised, oh, what's happened? He just instantly knew as such. So whenever they said he was badly injured, and I said, well, as long as he's still alive. So they said he was. So then I was taken there and then to the Royal. Then we're let in after the operation, and he had come round and he smiled.
The next thing I was aware of was waking up in intensive care that night. My mum was there, Dad was there, Hazel was there as well. And I said, well, do you know I've lost my arms? Yes, we do. Oh, that's all right then.
I'm the one who does the painting and the handy stuff. And Michael was never at that. And he says, you've got your handless man now. So he was quite jovial and upfront. Because he's quite a positive person himself. We'll get through it and we'll plough on, which we did do.
While Michael was recovering in hospital, a personal loss for Hazel made her even more determined to overcome the attack.
In that time as well, I had lost my own dad very suddenly. So I think that put a lot of things into perspective for me too. Where there's life, there's hope. So it was much easier, I found then, for myself to move forward from that sudden, family member just taken so quickly that you realise you go back to basics and think what you have got, and once you go forward from that, it's helpful as well.
Later, Hazel and Michael come to terms with their new reality.
Life changed completely.
That was the start of really a long road to recovery.
And Michael's career takes an unexpected turn.
I was able to get a job with the Police Rehabilitation Retraining Trust with retired and retiring police officers. I loved that.
Across the UK, thousands of assaults on ambulance staff are reported each year, and the figures continue to rise. This is a shocking reality for a service that is called out to help people and provide often life-saving treatment. Richard Bentley has been with the Yorkshire Ambulance Service since 2005 and a paramedic since 2009.
Absolutely, best way to be. I think when you're a child, most children want to do police, fire and ambulance. And like most children, it was what I wanted to do when I was younger.
Richard knows all too well the dangers of his job, with attacks on his service sadly becoming a common occurrence.
With colleagues, it's something that everybody's unfortunately becoming used to. Within Yorkshire, we've had 4 attacks per week, physical assaults on our staff within the last 12 months. This is where I was when the gentleman came at me with the knife. Just on one of the streets on the right-hand side, just down here. I've been back to this area several times since that incident happened, and if I feared it, it would stop me from doing my job. So you just need to continue and get on with things.
In 2014, Richard was single-crewed on a relatively quiet shift.
I was on standby and got given an emergency call to attend a residential address. When I got given the details, there wasn't much information on the screen. I'd been given the address, that it was a male, and that he was bleeding from his hand or from his wrist. So drove to the emergency. It took me about 5 or 7 minutes to get there. And when I arrived, there was nobody on the street, and it had been passed to me as an outside of address. I started to notice that there was drops of blood along the path. I followed the blood down the path and came to the door. The door had glass panels in it, and one of the glass panels had been smashed. I could hear raised voices inside the property. So I pushed the door open, stood outside, and shouted in, "Ambulance! Anybody there?" A gentleman appeared, and I could see all the way down his arm. He was bleeding heavily. I asked him what had gone on. He explained to me that He'd put his hand through the door. It was an accident. The gentleman was of Eastern European descent, and he was there with his female partner. She was also Eastern European. The way that the two people were speaking to each other, they were speaking in their own language, but the tone became quite raised, and their eye contact with each other and the body language, the way they're interacting, just changed. This changed while I was dressing the gentleman's arm and putting a bandage around it. I finished bandaging his arm, and the tension between both parties was increasing. The volume was getting louder. So I turned and was chatting to the female in the property, asking if she was okay. The gentleman had just left my side and headed back into the kitchen. And it was at this point that I noticed the look on her face. And then she screamed and turned and ran and just grabbed hold of a full armchair and flipped it upside down and got herself huddled on her hands and knees underneath in the seat area, with the hands out underneath, holding onto the armchair, holding the armchair above her. And as I turned to look, the gentleman was coming down the kitchen with a kitchen knife above his head. At that second, I was absolutely frozen with fear. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. My mind was doing so many different things, trying to work out what I should do, that I was unable to do anything. To walk into a situation like that, it escalated so quickly, and I had no pre-warning. And I think that's what scared me most. The fact of I found myself in a situation that I'd ultimately put myself there, and not understood the consequences as I walked in. He comes down, barges past me. He gets hold of the edge of the chair and he's trying to pull the chair off his partner as she's clinging on for dear life. I remove myself from the property and I activate my panic button. Ask for police assistance. Stood outside and I can hear her inside screaming. I know that I've asked for the police. I'm now in a real quandary. I took the decision to re-enter the property. I did that knowing that at that time, I'm re-entering the property, but I'm stood at the doorway, so at least I've got some kind of escape. This woman's trapped underneath the chair and she's got no kind of escape. So I re-entered and I started shouting, screaming, just making as much noise as possible, just to try and give myself some presence in the property, just to try and scare the gentleman. I kept shouting at him, put the knife down, the police are coming, put the knife down. I was shouting and screaming that much that the neighbours started to come out from around the street. They started to walk down the driveway to see what was going on. I started to get really worried about their safety as well. So I started to tell them, you need to move back. Go back home, ring the police and tell them what you've seen. I wanted to ensure that the police knew what was going on and that they were aware that this incident was still ongoing. After 2 or 3 minutes of being in the property, shouting and screaming at him, finally, he put the knife down. He just turned and looked at me and he walked out of the property into the garden. I managed to slam the door and lock the door behind him, locking him outside. So now only me and his partner were inside the property. But he was now stood in the garden, looking straight through the window, back at his girlfriend. And I started to become extremely fearful that he's now going to smash the window and get back inside the property. Shut the curtains of the window. That way, just to try and think, if he can't see her, he might not continue the argument, he might not continue banging. It probably took about 7 or 8 minutes for the police to get there. It felt a lot longer to me, and I'm sure it did to his partner. Once I heard the police siren, I reopened the curtains and we could look out. It was at that point I saw the police entering the garden with their tasers drawn, shouting at the gentleman, telling him to get down on the ground. He complied with what the police were asking, and he got down, and the police arrested him in the garden.
The offender was sentenced to 9 months in prison for a fray. Thanks to Richard's actions and quick thinking, both he and the female escaped unharmed. But the outcome could easily have been very different.
There's never a situation that I can see where a paramedic or ambulance staff or fire staff should ever be assaulted. We just come to work to do our job. We just come to work to come and help people. You pick up the phone and you ring us. You ask us to come and attend. And then when we get there, we're being attacked. That's just not right.
Richard was back to work the day after the incident, and although more cautious when attending domestic scenes, he finds solace with his crew.
It becomes a peer-to-peer support, lots of mess room chat. That's the way that we deal with things. We sit in a mess room and we try to chat to each other and we offload. These people doing the same job, they understand the situations you're going in. They can relate to it very easily. And that's the kind of offloading ability that is the best that we find with crew to crew and peer to peer, having those chats and letting them know what's been going on and how it's made you feel.
With family though, distressing events at work have to be handled delicately.
I try to not tell Mum that much. I know she'd worry a bit more if she knew everything that went on. So I shield her a little bit from it. Tell her that things have gone on, but maybe not tell her the full extent of everything that's happened. I think she'll always worry. And I think the more that she sees incidents on TV and on the news of assaults on paramedics and ambulance staff and other emergency service workers, it makes her more fearful for when I'm going out to work.
Even though there are risks in this job, there's one thing that keeps Richard turning up for work.
Knowing that 999 calls keep coming in and that people out there still do need us. It's not everybody that attacks us, and it is a small percentage. Unfortunately, an ever-increasing percentage, but it's still small. And the reason that I do this job is because I want to help people. So actually, what helps me get over it is going back out on the next shift, not letting that attack put me off, not letting that attack hinder me, moving forward and going on and helping the next people that I can.
Still to come. Despite many obstacles to overcome, Michael continues to go from strength to strength.
I actually was on top of the world because I was making gains what seemed to be every day.
And PC Charlie Parkinson is determined to get back to full duties after a violent assault.
I want to get back to being fully fit and fighting crime and serving the public, protecting people.
Catching the criminals responsible for violent ram raids can pose a significant threat to police. In this footage, a gang in Birmingham used a stolen Land Rover as a battering ram on a business premises. The incident was one of 20 such ram raids in a 6-week period in the West Midlands area. The thieves grab a safe, sliding it across the floor and outside. They maneuver the safe into the boot of the stolen getaway car. But the police helicopter is on the scene, and the onboard thermal imaging camera tracks the car as it drives away at high speed through residential streets. Aware they are being followed, the gang abandon the car and flee on foot. But the helicopter's heat-seeking camera ensures there's no escape. 2 of the gang attempt to hide in a nearby canal. But the police on the ground are communicating with their colleagues in the air and quickly locate and arrest the 2 thieves. A 3rd member of the gang was found nearby by a police dog and its handler. All 4 went on to admit conspiracy to commit burglary. They each received custodial sentences of between 4 and 6 years. On average, a police officer is attacked every 20 minutes in the UK.
She's quite distressed. I'll speak to you in a minute. Just so.
Oh my God.
Most of us have had violence against us.
Yes, I've been assaulted in the line of duty before.
I have been assaulted, yeah, a few times.
You do not know what you're going to walk into on a daily basis, knowing that you could walk into somebody carrying a knife or an axe or anything along those lines.
I broke my cheekbone, I got head-butted in the face.
I got pulled to the floor by my hair, punched in the face.
Recently I've been punched in the back of the head.
It just makes you more and more cautious going to jobs.
It's countless times I've been punched, kicked, spat at when restraining people in the line of my duty.
PC Charlie Parkinson from Humberside Police is spending 2 weeks at the Police Treatment Centre in Harrogate, North Yorkshire, a charity which offers rehabilitation to injured police officers.
You know, soft tissue healing takes a minimum of 3 months.
Yeah, that's what they've said. Yeah.
For the initial phases, and there's lots of change that can still happen, and it's still going in the right direction. But you also need to be a bit patient and kind to it. Kind to yourself.
I know. I just want to get back.
Were you response?
Yeah, I'm response, yeah. I just literally got my response ticket.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I did I think it's 2 weeks, and then I had my operation, so I was a bit devastated.
It's a tough job.
Yeah, it is. Very good job, though.
Yeah.
Very good.
And that's a good-looking scar.
Yeah. Surgeon's done well.
Yeah.
Charlie sustained serious ligament injuries to her thumb when she was called out to a domestic incident. A male violently attacked her and 2 other officers. The situation was so dangerous, she pressed her emergency button, and when backup arrived, it took 6 officers to restrain the offender. He admitted assaulting 3 police officers, including Charlie, and causing 2 of them actual bodily harm. He was sentenced to 20 months in prison for these and other offences. Although Charlie didn't realise the extent of her injuries, the pain became increasingly worse over time. She eventually needed full reconstructive surgery on her left thumb, and the repercussions have been huge.
Obviously, I can't do my hobbies. Into my sport massively. Can't play sport. And the job, to be fair, it's my life, it's my passion. It's what I live for, but then family and friends, obviously. I am a very caring person. And that's what I go to work for, We don't go to work for money. We go to work for the love of the job.
Sarah Ward is the head physiotherapist at the Police Treatment Centre and deals with a vast range of injuries, and there are new cases every week.
We're always looking towards regaining function because we treat people who, for example, are, firearms police, to police divers, to dog handlers, to a response officer, to someone who's driving a desk, and they all have very different kind of physiological demands. And we need to make sure we factor that into their rehab just as much as making sure that we are factoring in their hobbies, interests, goals, expectations. It's your non-dominant hand, though, isn't it? So that's one positive, that it's the non-dominant.
I was thinking about it the other night, obviously you grab, my cuffs are on the right side, so if I was to get my handcuffs out, get them out, you'd have to grab them with this hand, to keep holding them with this hand, and then put the handcuffs on. So it is my non-dominant hand, but it's very dominant when you're working.
Yeah, definitely. You need 2 hands. 2 hands. You know what to do. Pop your hand in.
During her 2 weeks in Harrogate, Charlie receives intensive physiotherapy and treatment on her hand every day. This wax bath may look like a beauty treatment, but it also has great healing benefits.
Feels amazing, yeah, it does. It's only the second time I've done it. I did it yesterday because I was a bit apprehensive because putting your hand in hot wax is a bit, it's a bit scary, isn't it?
But this is no spa. Charlie still has some work to do.
As I do this, it should start to free up a little bit. It just comes off like a glove. It's a lot warmer and a lot less sensitive. Use the putty just to massage your muscles and just to get your muscles working. As it cools down, it obviously gets a bit harder to use. So the pinching and the grip is quite painful.
Even though the rehab is tough, Charlie is impressed so far with how much the facility is helping with her mobility, as well as her general well-being.
I've been here since Monday. It's 4 days in. Still got another week to do. By the end of it, I'll have hopefully regained a lot more movement than I came with. I certainly have so far, so far so good.
Like all rehab though, it'll take time and perseverance to get Charlie back to living her normal life.
With the progress that you've made here and how you're doing and everything else, I'd be very, very positive, and you'll probably see a massive difference within the next kind of 2 to 3 months. But it's like anything, you know, phased returns, restricted duties, before we end up being fully back on the street doing everything. But you've got to look after yourself.
Yeah.
It is important to remember that when your job role is always protecting someone, that when you feel you can't protect yourself because you're injured, you are going to feel possibly more vulnerable than the normal person who is injured. But injury is tough, and therefore that toll that takes on someone is something we have to look at just as much as looking at the physical injury and their coping of the physical injury.
The injury as a whole has affected my whole life. However, you know, mentally, I don't think it's affected me massively because I'm quite a confident, outgoing person, and being put in that position again, I won't do anything differently. I'd maybe think twice before going in and thinking, you know, I need backup prior to entering the house. However, you know, playing sport is my life, you know, but I haven't been able to do that. I haven't been able to do anything. You know, the kids are off on the holidays, I can't go swimming with the kids. I can't do little bits and bobs, you know, and it's affected the family, you know.
It will all change.
Hopefully. I want to get back to being fully fit and fighting crime and serving the public, protecting people. I feel like my time here is going to benefit, you know, me massively physically and mentally, to be fair. I don't think you do the job unless you want passionate about it. I want to do my full 30 years. I want to do as long as I can and, you know, the best that I can do. I want to be the best that I can be.
After 2 weeks of receiving intensive physiotherapy in the police treatment centre, it was 3 months before Charlie was finally back on the front line, and 6 before she was back on the rugby pitch. In Northern Ireland, the period known as the Troubles meant emergency service workers were in constant danger. Michael Patterson was an RUC officer in Belfast when he became a victim of this sectarian conflict. He lost both his arms and sustained serious injuries to his leg when the IRA launched a rocket-propelled grenade at his police Land Rover in 1981.
This was amputated above the elbow, the left arm below the elbow. My left leg was also smashed up.
After 3 months in hospital with his leg in traction, Michael was released in a cast brace.
Life changed completely. The only thing was we were only married 3 weeks and we're only at home maybe about a week and a half after a honeymoon. So I didn't really experience a big part of normal life before it happened. So in some ways, maybe it was a bonus as well. We just then took it from there. Every step then we celebrated of his improvement, and once he was able to eat, once he was able to walk.
I started then going to physiotherapy, getting the knee bent again and being able to move that, doing various exercises, and then trying walking without the cast brace whenever the time came, then started to run again.
2 prosthetic arms were created for Michael. A silver hook was attached to the end of his left prosthesis, which would allow him to have some hand function.
That was the start of really a long road to recovery. And I found that I was able to do some things quite easily with the artificial limbs, and that came quite quickly. Other things I looked at and thought, can't do it the way I used to. And then I let the idea sit, and maybe a few days later came up with a solution. I knew how to do it. And one of the first things that I started off was trying to write again. But I was trying to get that sort of control. I was right-handed before, but now I had to change to the left because I have an elbow on this side. That makes all the difference. So my writing style now is the same as what it was whenever I was writing with the right hand.
I would have been a person that I wouldn't have done everything for him. I always felt it was better for him to get his independence and to encourage that. And because I saw so many the other way, getting everything done, I thought it wasn't healthy. It was better for him to be totally independent.
Although Michael's life had changed, he stayed optimistic and kept working towards new goals.
Actually, I was on top of the world because I was making gains what seemed to be every day and finding things that I could do that I might have considered I could never do.
He always had little barriers he wanted to push through, and probably that's always been his way in life, always pushing himself forward to do things. It gives you just a perspective on life, just to be thankful what you've got and not to moan, just get on and go with the hand you've been given.
Another goal Michael and Hazel achieved was having a large family.
I suppose we were married 6 years then, whenever we had our first child. Then once we got started, we had another 3 after that. So don't know what caused it, but it just kept coming like buses.
Michael just really adapted. He was excellent. From day one in the hospital, he just adapted. He knew how he could hold Natalie, our first one, and from that, no problem at all. And he used to go out pushing the pram and take her walks in her walker, and no, nothing was no problem to Michael at all where the children were concerned.
With his police career now over, Michael went back to education, gaining 2 A-levels in a year before securing a place at the University of Ulster, where he graduated with first-class honours in psychology in 1987. Later earning a PhD and then a second doctorate in clinical psychology.
I was able to get a job with the Police Rehabilitation Retraining Trust, doing psychological therapy with retired and retiring police officers. I loved that. Whether we're working with emergency service workers or whether we're working with non-emergency service workers, then the trauma is stored in exactly the same way. So somebody, for example, who was humiliated by a teacher at school, looking back into the memory, they can and it feels uncomfortable for them. That's stored in exactly the same way as the fatal road traffic collision that the firefighters attended or the police officers attended, or the murder scene that they've attended, and or even viewing material for evidential purposes. So something like that can have quite a profound effect. What I've seen is that police officers, firefighters, ambulance crews, they're all resilient individuals, and that's the beauty of it. And it's not the case of the first thing they attend, they've got PTSD. Often there's a build-up. And we would see that it's a bit like children's building blocks, one on top of the other. And if you think about that, stacking them up one on top of the other, the pie is going to sit quite stable up to a point. You add a few more bricks and then it's a bit shaky. One on top of that, it all falls over. You may have heard the expression, the straw that broke the camel's back. And that's all it needs, just to tip that over.
While doing his clinical psychology training, Michael came across a therapy that worked well for him.
I had the opportunity of training in a therapy called EMDR, and it stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. And it's one of 2 therapies that it's now recommended by the World Health Organization and the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence for treating psychological trauma. So, loved it and got great results, and in helping resolve post-traumatic stress disorder and other trauma-related disorders in police officers. So if you bring up that picture, those negative words, and noticing that feeling in your body. So go with that.
EMDR is thought to help the brain process negative experiences. The patient revisits a trauma while the therapist directs the patient's eye movements. By doing this, EMDR gradually erases distressing images from the memory, whilst relieving the emotional response and uncomfortable physical sensations.
I had the opportunity when I was training in EMDR therapy to experience it myself, and in the training we're allowed to work on a past trauma. So I thought, trauma? Well, losing my arms, that's traumatic enough. And so I was able to link into that. And as I linked into the picture that stood out for me was an image of my severed arm at this point. As I linked into it, it got the image, got the emotion, got the feeling in the body. The negative self-belief was, I'm a failure. Now, it just came up like that, and I thought, what's that all about? So then went with it, processed it. So that image, it faded. The image of the explosion outside, which it was, I saw it as like a big orange ball, like dirt being thrown up in the sound, then that faded as well. And then the tension in the stomach that was there, noticed that, and as I was doing the eye movements, the next thing I felt something moving up through my body, and then tears started to flow. And the thing was, just kept the eye movements going, kept the tears going as well until they stopped. At the end of the session, I rated it as disturbing a 7 out of 10 on a scale of disturbance. It doesn't disturb me now. So it was within a 45 minute session of processing. A few days later, I was speaking to colleagues about this wonderful experience of EMDR that I'd had. And as I was speaking about it, click, 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 bang. Then I linked back into the source of that I'm a failure. And it linked back into me growing up at home where I had this perception of being less than and being not good enough. So that's what got locked in at that point, and that's what stayed with me, that early life learning. That's what coloured my perception of myself when it came to doing the O-levels, scraped through with 2. So failures don't succeed. So I tended to sabotage myself. And this is what it all linked back to. That incident where I lost my arms, this is another thing I failed at. Totally irrational, but that's the belief, my perception of it, and the way I was distorted. By processing it, it meant it lifted the ceiling off my thinking. And it means now, if I can dream it, I can do it.
The high points didn't end with Michael's career success. There was to be another memorable occasion in 2008 when he was awarded an OBE.
I must say it was a great honour to be awarded that, and then having the investiture at Buckingham Palace was something special.
It was just absolutely lovely meeting Prince Charles, and just to be driving in through the gates. You never ever thought that was going to happen, you know, that sort of way. So it was absolutely amazing. It'd be one of the memorable days we would have had, yes.
Michael is a prime example of triumph in the face of adversity.
Well, for me, it was a case of sink or swim, and I could either lie down and just go under or just get on with it. And there's the old saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
He was never the person to sit and not do anything. He'd always have been more an action person, and likewise myself. So I think whenever you are more the action person, I think it always helps, because you're wondering, what next am I going to do? What next am I going to be at? That you don't dwell on things that get you down.
My kids, they're all growing up and away from home. They grew up with me like this, so I'm just dad, you know, with stupid jokes and everything as they would see it. But at times too, I think that there might be a hint of pride there too. It slips through from time to time, but they don't tell me. I just have to read the signs.